Good evening and welcome to the Ask the Experts webinar for Tuesday, November 13th. As always, these are going to be recorded and later on tonight posted on the First Canada YouTube channel, which you can access them from there. We'll also be posting the recording link where you can get to it and so forth, as well as the other ones we've done in the past few weeks on various social media platforms, including First Canada's Facebook page. So there will be lots of opportunities to share this, and there will be lots of great information for those of you that don't know what a robot in 3 days is. We're going to hopefully find a lot more and some surprises, I think, in terms of a couple of things that maybe you didn't know and how that can benefit your team along the way. So if you do have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to put them in the the questions box, and we'll get to them along the way. I've already had one question from Alan Toms, who's one of the mentors that regularly comes on. He mentions that Frank Merrick, who has been on our webinar in the past few weeks, has a big announcement that's coming out around the same time as we're doing this, and was I going to be talking about that? And the short answer to that is no, because I do not know what Frank's big reveal is. I have some suspicions, but I don't know in actual fact what it is. So we'll hear probably from other people what that is along the way, but I am not going to be covering that as we go along. So without further ado, we're going to take it on to our robot in 3 days. The two of the groups are with us tonight, some of the members of two of the groups, and we'll start with them tonight and we'll see what they have to say. So we have Brendan from the Robot in 3 Days group that did it, Robot in 3 Days Team Ontario, that did their Robot in 3 Days build out of Hamilton, I believe, Brendan? Yes?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy to be back here again. I did this last year, and I'm just excited to share my experiences with all of you again.
I can't wait to hear what happened and some of the things you're going to change. And as well, we have Colin and Eric, who are at the University of Ontario in Oshawa, and they are going to try to do one as well this year. So my understanding is that there's been a lot of interest, I guess, Brendan, from what your group did last year, and the group that was at the University of Waterloo, who are also going to do one. And there might be more than just the University of Ontario one as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have a set of questions, and some of them you can see, but we may find that we're going off in a different path, and that's fine. But if you do have some questions that you want to address, please put them in the question box. Okay, so originally, when I made up the questions, I wasn't anticipating that the guys from the University of Ontario would be so ready to go and into it. So some of them,
we're all ready to go.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. So hopefully we'll be able to talk in depth about both of them as well. So in terms of the first question, like where did it take place? That's what we're talking with Brendan, and maybe Colin and Eric, you guys can chime in with where you're going to run yours this year as well. So Brendan, you first. Where did this take place last year?
So last year we ran out of the Robodrome. For those of you that don't know, that's where 5406 builds out of. It's an old school, so we had a gym and a shop in there. And it went really well last year. But this year, due to some differences between what the board wants for the space and what we need for the space, we are going to actually be moving. So we're probably going to be located more downtown Toronto this year.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a change. And Colin, Eric, what about you guys? Where are you going to build out of?
So, do you want to take this one, Eric, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can answer it. So actually, we've been talking with the faculty a lot. So this year, I believe we're going to be able to build out of the Automotive Center of Excellence. So they're going to help us with their industrial build space, which will be very helpful. And then they're going to give us their atrium as sort of a design space and like a space to test. And if we need more space, it's been offered up that we might be able to get the gym for our last day, maybe not, depending on the recreational schedules. So it'll be a lot of fun.
That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I always wonder where the sleeping and eating and stuff's going to happen, but I'm sure you guys have plans for that.
My lap bench.
Yeah, a comfy, it's a lot of inflatable beds, I guess.
A lot of Red Bull with that.
Yeah. Brendan, who were some of the teams that were represented on your group last year?
All right. This is from memory. I think we had
That's
771, 772, 781 from myself, obviously. We had 2056, some London teams, I think.
Did you have any waffles?
We did. Yes, we did. I can actually look up the list.
Okay.
I have it right in front of me.
I don't think we need to know. I just wanted to get a flavor that it wasn't just one or two people, that it was a variety. So, which is great, because that's what FIRST is all about, the opportunity to work with other people. What are you thinking, Colin, that you're going to have? Do you already know who some of the people are going to be with you this year?
Oh yeah, yeah. We got a pretty good list of them right now. Just a few off the ones who are extremely active in the group. We have a lot of 1310 members. We have obviously 5870 League of Vlogger represent.
Mm-hmm.
We have 4525 with Eric. I believe we have, what else do we have, Eric?
We've got 4248. We've got,
we have
5036. I know we've got some 1241. And there were a few others off the top of my head that I'm totally forgetting, and my apologies to them. Oh, we've got 4939 as well.
I believe we have the Cyber Cavs in there with us.
Oh, that's good. So are all these students, I guess are they all university students, or are some current members of teams?
There's university students who are a wide range of people. We have everybody from people who are still actively involved with their team. Oh, 5036 is another one. People are still actively involved with their team. We have a lot of mentors on our team. We even have a Vex Robotics man on our team. So
got a few of those too. Yeah.
Really all over the place.
Wow. So are they all students at the University of Ontario, or are they?
Yep.
Because school wouldn't be back in yet, would it?
So most of our
started.
members are students at this school, but I have actually opened up I've offered for some of the high school students if they want to come in and see what we're doing from some of the local North Durham high schools.
Sure.
So we're actually working on maybe founding another first team in the Durham region, because there aren't a lot here.
No.
But we've got some teachers who are highly interested in it, and I'm hoping to be able to push them to do so. Maybe not. Maybe for this year, maybe not, depending on what they're willing to do for time commitment.
Well, I think it's pretty much, since one of my jobs is to deal with rookies and work on grants for them, I think we're pretty much maxed out for events. We may not really have many spaces left at all, but it's good to keep in mind, and it'll be great to have some new blood out in Durham, and if you guys are supporting it with your robot in 3 days, that's fantastic.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about as a team is maybe being able to help some of our rookie teams that we're founding get funding right off the bat a little bit more to help them. And, maybe because we're going to publish everything that we do onto a website for UIZRI 3D eventually, so that we can sort of help out in any way we can, I guess.
Well, it sounds great. So did any of the three, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to chip in here. I'd say, Eric, confirm or deny, I think like the overall kind of what we're trying to do with Robot in 3 days here is we're really trying to do what 4814 did in London. I think we'd like to see a lot more teams around Oshawa, because currently we only have the Sprockets 1075 in Whitby right now. So if we can expand the amount of high schools in Oshawa here that have it, I think we'd be quite happy.
Well, I think
Absolutely.
Dennis O'Connor as well. I'm not sure exactly how close that is to the Sprockets, but I know they support the Sprockets as well. But yeah, that would be great. That would be fantastic. And even further east than that, towards Peterborough and so forth, that would be great if we could
Absolutely
get some teams heading out that way as well. And you guys are perfectly positioned for that at the University of Ontario, for sure. Did any of you three gentlemen have any experience with Robot in 3 days before last year? I know obviously Brendan did, but prior to him running that event. Brendan, any experience with it other than watching it?
No, I was just your regular Joe, making sure to catch up on the daily recaps of all the RA3D teams, seeing what could be done, following Chief Delphi threads, making sure that I knew what was going on, so that when it came to last year, I was able to run an event with the help of three other guys.
Colin, Eric, either of you were involved in anything?
Kind of the same about Brendan there. Really kind of just, put it on in the background as you go through your team's CAD or something. Check in every now and then, see who's got the best dance moves on the webcam, that kind of stuff,
Well, I have to say, it's pretty amazing that you guys would even try to do this without having the experience, but maybe that's the best way to do it. Often that is the best way to do it when teams are starting out, is just to dive in and go for it.
Push straight into the deep end.
Yeah, that's for sure. So the last three here are for you, Brendan, since you've done it. Maybe it'll give some information to Colin, Eric, and whoever else might be listening and thinking about it. How did you prepare for it last year?
It was really the standard project preparation checklist that I went through.
Right.
I made sure to have a Gantt chart outlining how I was going to organize the time. I made sure that all the team members knew how we were going to organize the time. I made sure that obviously we had all the resources. That's the biggest part of running the team, making sure that you have the right resources, because you never know what the game's going to be like. So you really have to be on the balls of your feet when you're figuring that out. That's where the things sort of diverge from what you do in a regular team, because it's so condensed. You can't expect to be planning out every minute that you're there. Things are going to throw a wrench in your plan. You're going to get an hour or 2 hours off track. What makes a good RA3D team, so far from my experience, is one that can respond to those challenges really, really quickly. Not necessarily responding well, but responding quickly. It's a different environment from what your typical FRC team does.
Okay, so what you think would be the hardest part about what you did in hindsight?
In hindsight, the hardest part was definitely the level that we wanted our robot performing at. We strove high. We landed a bit below that. Really what we should have done is aimed a bit lower so that we could have a robot that was slightly more presentable, have more information for teams. After all, one of the goals of RA3D, from my perspective, is to give inspiration to all those high schoolers who don't know where to start. Number two is to expand first popularity. So that means having good branding, good sponsor relationships. And after all, that's really what it comes down to, because if you don't have sponsors, you're not going to run it again next year.
No, that's true. So during the daily build of it, what were some of the challenges that I guess maybe you didn't anticipate?
It definitely, well, I'd like to start out by saying what went really well. I was really, really surprised by how well everyone on the team worked together. We had members from rookie teams. We had members who had only participated in FIRST for 1 year. We had some members who actually had never participated in FIRST before. And we all meshed together, and that's very likely because of the highly competitive application process,
Mm-hmm.
and how we also stressed that people make themselves approachable. So that's where it went really well. Then the challenges came in where we need to figure out, all right, so we have these resources. How do we make sure everyone gets them? So we split into teams, working on the drivetrain, working on, for our robot, we had an extension arm mechanism, and a rotating part on the arm as well, obviously. So different groups handling all those components. We had to make sure that they were working together. I was more on the organizational side of the team, right. Mainly because I was a person who was organizing, and therefore that responsibility fell on me. But definitely the resource allocation. I think, at least from my perspective and what I heard back, that everyone who participated on the team felt it ran smoothly, felt that it was a good experience. The robot ended up being decent. So it really was more of a organize it well and people will be happy.
Well, it's interesting you say all those things, because I know as when you're running something, it's difficult to really do what you want. So I guess Colin and Eric, are you guys going to be hands-on during the build, or are you going to be mostly performing a role like the one that Brendan described that he had to do?
Well, personally, I've always kind of been the guy on the team to be designing and building it. So I would love to sort of get in there and do that. I'm not going to lie. I know where my strengths lie. I have never been that good at organization and keeping a cool head under stress, but CAD and building, I'd love to do that under stress. Mm-hmm. What about you, Eric?
So for me, specifically, like, I'm the one who sort of does the liaison between the team and the faculty. So I think I'm going to be the one sort of overseeing what's kind of going on. And I'd like to back off and give, some of the students who maybe haven't had a chance to do first a chance to play with the control systems, or, do something kind of cool and learn from their peers versus maybe me stepping in and doing it. Because I've had 4 years of first behind me to play around. I know we don't have a lot of time in 3 days, but I also think it's an amazing learning opportunity. So I'm going to be a little bit hands-off and sort of just bounce between and make sure everybody's sort of got an idea as to what we're doing and everybody's working well together. Everybody's getting like food and proper sleep.
Those might be the most important jobs, as it turns out. A couple of quick more questions here for you, Brendan. Well, I guess we did the thing that surprised you. You talked a little bit about that. What would you do to prepare differently? And this may help give Colin and Eric some things to think about as well.
Well, you really have
if there is something you would do differently.
Yeah. So for the most part, the start went really well. Make sure that you have that control at the end as well, because everyone's going to be tired, but you need to clean up. You need to make sure that you're not in the way of whoever space you're using, whatever other teams are there as well. Making sure that you don't put that off. Making sure that you have the right resources. That's really what it comes down to. Because once you're there, humans are really good at making do with what they have. So make sure that you have the best kind of possible resources prepared and ready. It's really all about making sure in the few days before that everyone is ready, because what we ended up with at the very end was people had to leave early, so it ended up being the job of cleaning for the people who had stayed behind to help film and finish up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just making sure you're prepared. I had talked the other day with a group from U Tennessee who is also starting up an RE3D team, and a member from the Greenhorns who is also helping them out mentioned that it would be it's really the first experience that it comes down to. You have to be prepared. You have to know what you're going with. You have to have the right resources. So Vex Pros and Versaplanetary gearboxes, they're lifesavers in FRC.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things you said there really twigged with me, and that is you got to clean up, right? So, one of the things that's always impressed me is that how at the end of every FRC event, Mark Bredner's there with his jeans on and his work shirt, and he's in there cleaning up with everybody. When the person in charge is willing to roll up their sleeves and do that at the end of a long week.
Yeah, I definitely remember that from the Waterloo event that was held last year. Yeah, that was amazing.
So to me, that's leadership. So if I'm just putting that out there. It's impressed me to this day, and I know for that reason, a lot of people are willing to jump in and support when they can see the person in charge willing to do whatever's necessary, right?
Yeah.
Any other advice for Colin, Eric, and whoever else might be considering doing something like this?
It really comes down to you have to have some first experience to put an event like this on. You have to, I personally think you have to have had leadership experience on your own team. I had that. Everyone else I've talked to has had that, whether it be formal or informal. And then make sure you surround yourself with a great group of guys. On RA3D Team Ontario, there's Nick Kirstens, who's primarily in charge of media, Chet Gonzalez, who's helping me out all the time, and I'm helping him out all the time. And then we've got Ryan Lowndes, who's just fantastic at helping both of us out, and just basically reading our minds. It all comes down to the people in your group.
That's good advice for sure. So, this is to everybody. I think we'll start with you, Colin. What do you think rookie teams can get out of watching your robot in 3 days? Because you said you wanted to work a little bit next year with rookie teams in Durham region.
Oh yeah, well, rookie teams, coming from one as a captain of build and design in 2016, they teach you everything. If you're not from a good off the bat team that has a lot of mentor support from another team and everything, the best thing that a rookie team can do is to go through every single robot in 3 days team and go, oh, they did this, but they did this and they did a little better with that. And then you get all of these ideas, you start writing them down, then all of a sudden, congratulations, you have 3-4 pages of notes on your bot. Go to class on Monday after school, you just bring it up to your professor and you start CADing. It's a great program to do that sort of stuff with.
Eric, what do you think? What's the best thing a rookie can get out of watching your event?
I think they can take a lot, because especially with us, we're going to publish everything that we do. So if they for example, if we have to make a shooting mechanism, we'll publish that and we'll put the CAD in a format like SolidWorks that they can work with, something that is openly available for them to use, right? And we'll definitely do a recap and talk about it. Something that maybe they can take or improve on, and we'll do an in-depth overview of how we deal with the control systems and maybe getting it set up. Things that I remember that took forever when I started out as a rookie team many years ago, and many headbanging nights, right?
Yeah.
We can try and offer resources.
Well, that would be great. Brendan, did you ever hear back from any of the mentors or rookies that maybe watched you guys? Did they ever give you any feedback?
I wasn't the contact for that information, so I'd have to ask my teammates, my fellow leaders. But if that's something that everyone is interested in, I can find out which teams. I'd like to mention, though, that rookie teams will only get stuff out of the teams the RA3D teams that cater towards the rookie teams. So last year, RA3D Team Ontario decided that we wanted to have a build the best kind of robot we can with the resources we have, not a build a robot that's really, really good at one thing that people with less resources than us will be good at. Be good at building, be good at controlling. So make sure you know the team that you're dealing with when you are watching those live streams.
Well, now that you
Just
mentioned,
really quickly here.
sure, go ahead, Colin.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So, Brendan, if you're doing that, then I think that we should do the same thing at UOIT, and I'll tell you what. You and I compete after that, and the winner gets to come back the next year. What do you think?
We'll see about that, hey? We'll see about that.
It would be nice to see
Okay.
robots competing. It sounds like there's going to be more than 2 or 3 teams, so that would be kind of neat.
Absolutely.
But what
That'd
I
be
was
a lot of fun.
what I was going to say was that Brennan brings up a really good point, and that is, I had mentioned, it was probably to Mike from Waterloo, but I had mentioned that wouldn't it be great if one of the Robot in 3 Days was focusing on building a really good rookie robot? And the reason I mentioned that is is because Ontario is in the unique position every year of having a significant number of rookie teams. In fact, this year there are 23 rookie teams, and a lot of them could really benefit. And we have teams in Kapuskasing and new teams in Thunder Bay, as well as a number of teams in other parts of southwestern Ontario and the GTA. So to have something like that, every bot that was built last year by it wasn't a Robot in 3 Days, but it was a team in Texas, that would be super beneficial to all those teams for sure. But anyways,
Yeah,
that's just a thought, but any comments on that would be appreciated.
Last year, yeah, it was 188 that came up with every bot. Or, hang on. Am I getting my team?
No, I think you're right. 188 or no, 118, wasn't it? Something like that.
I think it
was 118.
Yeah.
It was 118, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation. I would not have thought about that until I saw that one and that people were using it. And they weren't all rookie teams using it, that design, as Colin and Eric were pointing out. You know, if you look at your resource and see what you can do, that's something that maybe a veteran team that's lost a mentor or two, or is short of funds in a location where there's not a lot of stuff for them, not a lot of metal workshops and aluminum line in the streets that they can use, where they've got to really work for their resources. That might be something that's beneficial to them.
Well, yeah, last year, the Everybot was definitely the best robot that a rookie could have built.
Right.
And it was done much better than any RA3D team did. Part of that was they had more time, but part of it is just a really good design process.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about watching RA3D teams. As I said before, might have different goals than a rookie team would have.
So I think I know an answer to the next one, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What do you think veteran teams can learn from watching? And Eric, maybe we'll start with you.
Veteran teams definitely have, a lot to gain, right? Even as a veteran team, your manufacturing process can always be improved, right? So, for example, if you see an RI3D using, tools like, CNC or laser cutting to build most of their parts, like, I think our manufacturing process this year is probably going to be a lot of, we're going to laser cut and bend a lot of our parts into what we want, depending on what we need to make. And that's something that they can learn from, right, if the CAD files are up, because they can reverse engineer that if they wanted to, some say. Or, maybe they can, spark a different idea off of something that we made.
Right.
Right? They
have
change,
more time.
Yeah, maybe they can change something that we did, or, just to spark some kind of really cool idea off of it. Like, the thing I would love to see is a robot that walks out onto the field and happens to look like something that we sort of started with RI3D, but then it does like a million other things and it does them 10 times better. That would be phenomenal.
That would be pretty good. Colin, what do you think?
I'm not going to lie to you, and Brandon, I mean no disrespect in saying this, but I really don't think veteran teams can learn much from Robot in 3 Day teams. If you look at it, what they got 6 weeks. We got 3 days. A really good team would have already picked out their chassis by the time the game even dropped. So the people who are really looking for inspiration on day 3, because a lot of good teams are done designing or done with their basic idea by day 3. A lot of the teams that really should be focused on presenting Robot in 3 days to are the rookie teams or the teams that maybe don't have enough support. I truly do not think veteran teams have much to learn from Robot in 3 days, and I don't think that Robot in 3 days should cater to them, just personally.
All the more reason to focus on the rookies, going back to my push from a little bit before. But we do have a question that maybe you guys can jump in on. It's from Peter, who's a brand new coach at the Six Nations Polytechnic STEAM Academy in Brantford, who had a great event at the Stemley Cup. So he says, my team's a rookie team, did well with the board robot at Stemley, and we were notified of our success in the rookie grant. Congratulations, Peter. That's great to hear. Just so you know, all 23 teams in Ontario got the rookie grant from the United States for $6,000 US over the next 2 years. So that's so wonderful. And those came out this afternoon. So that's so Peter's probably on a little bit of a high at this point. Anyways, to continue his question, it would be useful for us to see what others do in their builds. So how do we get in on this? We are a Six Nations team. Is a 3-day build all in one 3-day shot or 3 one-day build events? Okay.
Ooh.
So here we have, this is exactly why we're running this webinar. Peter wants to know a little bit more about what this whole thing is, which I guess we didn't talk about at the start. So robot in 3 days. Who wants to jump in?
Ooh. Oh, Eric, I'll let you take this one. I'll go after you.
Okay. So I think that so we've got some contingencies with our faculty and like when we can use the shops and when we cannot due to some time things. So there's obviously got to be a bit of planning involved with that. But our manufacturing process, I guess, when we build, I think it's going to be, we're going to spend probably, a couple hours on our base concept, maybe a couple more hours on prototyping.
So just, sorry to interrupt, Eric, but just for Peter, since he's new to this, our kickoff and the reveal is on about 10:30 in the morning on January the 5th. When do you start?
Thursday morning, January 5th.
We are definitely starting 10:30, and we're going straight from there. So, but I think, like I said, like we'll break it up into gaining ideas from how we want to tackle each problem, or if we want to focus on one small thing or focus on doing everything. We want to come together as a team and agree and see where our direction is going to go. And then, so I think give or take, it'll be, I'm not sure how that crunch is going to be for the 3-day period, but I have a feeling it'll be, like I would like to at least have our kitbot frame done on the first day. Probably the second day, I would like to have our robot fully built, and I would hope to have it actually testing on the third day, like coding or, improving our design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colin, jump in just to give a...
Yep.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Perfect. So, Peter, Robot in 3 days is a great amount of fun where mostly mentors get together, and for 3 days straight, they slam back as many Red Bulls as they need to stay awake. You're dropped the game at 10:30, January whatever, and 3 days from there, you should be finished your robot. And then you publish the info straight out to YouTube, whatever outlet first teams can really view it on. And you really try to get out there as soon as you can so that as many teams that are still in the design phase looking for ideas can go, oh, hey, I like that. Let's try that. So it's 3 days of just mad dash and no sleep, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And they're taking place all over North America. And Brendan has mentioned a couple of people he's been in touch with, right, Brendan?
Yeah, and if you're interested in what our team did last year, you can head on over to ri3dontario.ca, and we have some files on the design of a robot. So you'll see what we did. You'll see some comments from team members. And while I'm mentioning that, if you want to apply to the RA3D Team Ontario, head on over to ra3dontario.ca/apply.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to run out of time, but these are some of the other things that because we're already past our time for our half hour tonight. But it's certainly been a great discussion. These are some of the other things that we're going to mention, but we did say that we wanted to hear from people, and Peter, that was a great question. And the content diverged a little bit as people were talking, and some of these points were dealt with in some ways as we go along. Just before we go, though, Colin, Eric, how Brendan was talking about an application process and that he's still welcoming in possible members. How are you guys doing that?
So the way that we're going about it is really we have a large collection of people already in a bunch of Facebook groups. We already have Slack, a Discord. We're trying to keep very, very organized with everybody. However, something that I believe we're going to look into at some point is we're going to always be accepting more members, and we're always telling our friends. The first community, as I'm sure the first community is very connected. You see somebody wearing a shirt with a number on it, you go, hey, I wear a shirt with a number on it, and then you start being friends. So we're always pulling in new members just by doing that, trying to outreach to the university. Eric, you got anything else?
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, I even like just last weekend, I extended the invitation to one of the high schools that came out to a little Mindstorm competition that our faculty hosts. And I was saying to them, I'm like, you know, if you want to have your kids come out for, you know, a day, we're doing this cool thing in January. If you want to try it out before you get into it, maybe this upcoming year or next year, to see what it's like, or maybe give them a chance to, you know, work in an environment like this, or have them work alongside us, or do something cool. So we're always accepting. We're happy. We've actually, I'm hoping to be able to accept Durham College, or kids from Durham College onto our team as well.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
And everyone from, we have, I believe, at least one person from every faculty at the school coming together on our team. And at the moment, I believe the actually the Durham College program for media arts is going to be responsible for hosting our live stream.
Great. So that would be fantastic.
Nice.
That's really good. Anyways, we'll just quickly go through. So to give your sponsors a shout out, Brendan, you've got a few sponsors, I believe. You want to yell out who they are? Or is Brendan's still muted?
Sorry about that. I started talking and I forgot I was muted.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that.
So last year, our big sponsor was Studica and the Robodrome, so that'd be the Hamilton Wentworth Catholic District School Board. We had support from 1310, 1241, and 781. And we also had some private sponsorship from the Simons family.
Excellent. And Colin, Eric, have you got sponsors for this year?
This year, our funding is
obviously the university, right? But
yeah, so the faculty has offered to give us $6,000 to make this happen, and we are very thankful to them for doing that.
That's wonderful.
They also, but they want us to work more than just doing the RI3, right? They want us to work with all sorts of stuff like FLL or you know, different competitions. So like, there's talk of us maybe using this RI3D to turn it into a entire robotics society where we can do cool things like found first teams and do all sorts of crazy things, right?
Right.
So we're definitely looking for sponsors though, actively.
Oh, good.
Another thing we're really looking for at this moment is we're really looking for part donors from different teams. So if anybody is listening to this and they want to help out another Robot in 3 Days team, we are easily found on media. Just hit us up.
It's the right place to do it. That's great. We'll be sending this out to as many teams as we can in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we're really in need of a Rio right now.
A what? A Robo Rio?
A Robo Rio.
Yeah. Well, you might want to. I will say, from talking to Derek Murphy at Studica, this is something that is in short supply right now, the Robo Rios. So just be aware. But you might want to contact Studica and see if they're interested in sponsoring a second robot in 3 days.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to reach out to that.
Contact him soon because he's going away to Thailand in the next day or two, I think, for
nice.
Some robots trip. So next week, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Brendan. I want to thank Colin and Eric and everybody who listened in tonight and asked questions. Next week, so on a similar vein, we'll have Kim Cooper, who's the Vice President of Partnerships and Sponsorships, talking to us about how to treat your sponsors well. Again, for teams that have sponsors, we'll talk about a couple of things that would be good to do to make sure your sponsors know that you appreciate what they did for you and that they'll keep on doing it. But again, thank you very much to everybody who participated. Brendan, good luck. Colin, good luck. Eric, same thing. I know exams are coming up shortly, so
Thank you very much.
good luck with that.
We'll need help.
Well, let's hope not too much. But thanks once again, and good night to everybody.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Love the time spent here.